In Oscar Wilde's duologue, The Critic as Artist, Gilbert declares that music is the perfect art form because music can never reveal its ultimate secret. Wilde loved mystery, and he strove to love music too. In the contemporary debates about the relations between form and content in art, it was understood that only in music were the two held in perfect balance. Walter Pater, Wilde's great intellectual mentor during his student years, had written in one of his essays that all art aspires to the condition of music, and Wilde eagerly endorsed the idea, repeating it often, sometimes as his own. During his years at Oxford, Wilde became a member of the university's musical club, even if he rarely remembered to pay his subscription. He had a piano in his rooms and encouraged his friends to play it. He was enthusiastic about the singing in Magdalen College Chapel. During the holidays, he eagerly attended concerts in London. He heard Anton Rubinstein playing Beethoven's Appassionata and witnessed Wagner conducting The Flying Dutchman at the Albert Hall. In Milan, he saw a performance of Dolores, a new opera by Salvatore Altieri Manzocchi. Despite some pretty rondos, he thought the general character of the piece was inharmonious shouting, a verdict that seems to have been endorsed by time. In Rome, he was inspired to write a sonnet, having heard Mozart's Dies Irae sung in the Sistine Chapel. When quizzed about his favourite composers for a Confessions album, he confidently listed Mozart, Gounod and Chopin. During his early years in London, when he was attempting to conquer fashionable society as the living embodiment of his aestheticism, he frequently dotted his conversation with musical allusions. He told one acquaintance that he so admired an almond tree outside a particular London property that "I should like to be invited to this house simply to meet that almond tree. I should even prefer it to a tenor voice." In his writings, he touched on music often. Mozart, Mendelssohn, Beethoven, Berlioz, Wagner and Chopin are all mentioned. One of Wilde's characters is enjoined to play A Mad Scarlet Thing by Dvorak. The figures in another piece cavort to a waltz by Johann Strauss. Lady Bracknell is described as ringing the doorbell in a Wagnerian manner. Of all Wilde's works, though, it is The Picture of Dorian Gray that is most steeped in music. The protagonist is a gifted pianist and a devotee of Wagner. Early in the novel, we find him at the piano in Basil Hallward's studio, admiring Schumann's Forest Seas. Later, we see him alone in his box at the Opera House, thrilling to Wagner's Tannhauser. Throughout, he seeks solace in the nocturnes of Chopin. And while some of Wilde's more musical friends noted the limitations of his proclaimed knowledge, Chopin does seem to have been the composer with whom Wilde himself had the closest rapport. He said of Chopin's nocturnes that they were amongst the few things in the world that can repeat themselves without repetition, like a boiled egg for breakfast. And if Wilde was inspired by music, musicians were inspired by Wilde and continue to be so. Many of Wilde's poems have been set to music. His stories have inspired operas and musical suites, and so have his plays. Richard Strauss's Salome is only the best known of such work. There is Zemlinsky's The Dwarf from Wilde's Birthday of the Infanta, or the same composer's opera of The Florentine Tragedy. 2011 saw the premiere of Gerald Barry's ingenious operatic take on the importance of being earnest. Amongst the dozens of lesser-known works, there is much to enjoy, including Eric Coates's orchestral suite based on The Selfish Giant, and Henry Hadley's 1905 symphonic poem, Salome, written after seeing an early production of Wilde's play. If none of these pieces, of course, quite reveals Wilde's ultimate secret, they do all, in their different ways, suggest something of his many-sided genius.